If I weren't riding it right now, I wouldn't have believed that a nickel could burn like that. How he picks it up, and it's not even half pressure yet. And so in half a slipper. If you lie, you won't get away. Shoot, Gleb Yegorich. I don't know why it came to mind. Okay, there's nothing here. And where is the engine? I feel like my face is lighter or something. And rear-wheel drive, that's just some kind of happiness. The car drives a little differently. More delicately, I guess. More confidently. But the brakes are classic and sad. From high speeds, you can only stop with a screech. I thought that was it. There were no such cars left, and the ones that remain are hiding far and deep from the public. They really are rare and short-lived. But I found one. Thanks to the owner. I called him and he agreed. Alexander? In this car, essentially, two complete stories of AvtoVAZ have merged. The fifth model of the Zhiguli is the pinnacle of the evolution of the first model. The VAZ 2007 is fire, not evolution. And the engine, which was as good as it was bad. The 5. I absolutely love it. My youth is deeply connected to it. For the year it came out, it was very stylish and trendy. It's hard to argue with that. The VAZ 2105 absorbed new trends. It really revitalized the classic family. Well, it is beautiful, isn't it? And it's beautiful because they put in the effort and timed its release for the 1980 Olympics. And there were so many new things used in the car that it's pointless to list them, since these innovations more often made the car cheaper and simplified its overall production. But there were some quite modern solutions, though the main thing was the appearance. The boxy design, the headlight block, the little wipers on them. Minimal chrome. The vent windows on the front doors disappeared. But the saddest thing for a Russian person was that the hole faded into oblivion. Well, more precisely, the hole for the hand crank starter. I'm being ironic now. But back then, in 1980, and even later, right up to the end of the production of the 5, which by the way was in 2010, the car looked quite respectable. Judge for yourself. Aluminum bumpers with rubber pads. They were designed for the possible future installation of hydraulic dampers to meet US safety standards. The headlights were equipped with halogen bulbs to make night driving comfortable. And headlight washers were a luxury on par with a little rose on the gear shift knob. Let me get inside the car and remind myself and you what it was really like, the car of my youth. There's also the relatively thin steering wheel with bulges, and the slightly crooked horn button that kept falling off. Right here, the bolt would unscrew from vibration, or sometimes here. The interior trim is, quite frankly, ridiculously simple. Chlorovinyl, rubber, more chlorovinyl, and polyurethane. But that doesn't mean it's shabby or poor. Again, keep in mind, this was the 80s and 90s. Seats with headrests. There's a setup for a sound system. Well, sort of. I mean, the center console. For the first time in a Zhiguli, the mirrors could be adjusted from inside the cabin. All 5s came standard with rear window defrosters. The instrument cluster was just out of this world. Well, I mean, like lifeless outer space, not what you might be thinking. Speedometer, voltmeter, and something else. A black hole of warning lights. I always felt like some symbol I didn't know could light up there. Maybe runes. The Piaterka features air vents that carefully direct airflow onto the side windows. And they really didn't fog up just enough so you could peer into the ever-shifting mirror. The rest of the glass you could just wipe with your sleeve. I've always loved the shelf. And by the way, cards never flew off it. The thing is, the shelf was often missing because the heater had to be replaced. These little things were always breaking off into the great beyond. And these buttons on the doors really annoyed me too. The beard on the Orthodox crosses. Why did they have to make it so crooked? But, oh well, that's secondary. Oh, I forgot to mention. By the way, this car is for sale. The price matches. But those who know will understand. And if you don't get it, there's no way to explain it to you guys. Alright, we'll get back to the interior in a bit. We need to take a look in the trunk, see how many potatoes it can fit. I hated opening it with the key, especially in winter, especially when it thawed and then froze again. You just stand there fiddling with it. So, what's here? Yeah, well, you can see for yourself. 2 tanks, each holding 40 liters, or more precisely, 39. And now, let's take a moment to move on to the engine. A real rarity. Especially these days. VAZ 4132. Rotary or Wankel engine. Well, I mean a rotary piston engine. But first, some numbers. The engine displacement is 1,308 cubic centimeters. Maximum power is 140 horsepower at 6,000 revolutions per minute. Maximum torque is 186 newton meters at 4,500 revolutions per minute. Look, there are 4 ignition coils and 2 spark plugs per section. One spark plug ignites the mixture, the second one completes the combustion. This engine has 2 sections. If you add, as I said, one more section, you get an engine for the Volga, add another, 4 total, and you get an engine for the Chaika. It's like a construction set. Each section has a volume of 645 cubic centimeters. The father and inventor of the rotary engine is Felix Wankel. The finished engine appeared in 1957. The Soviet comrades liked the engine, but they were unable to purchase a license for it. So our people simply bought a Mazda with such an engine and studied it thoroughly. In 1974, a rotary engine laboratory was opened in Tolyatti, USSR. The engines produced by the laboratory were installed in vehicles for law enforcement agencies. Moreover, they were installed in Volga, Chaika, Zhiguli, and even Raz vehicles. But here's the problem. The first cars equipped with such engines, there were 50 of them, and they were VAZ 21018S based on the 11th model, which was a modified Kopeka, were returned to the factory. It turned out that the quality of the engines was unsatisfactory. The government decided that producing such engines for the people was extremely impractical, both from an economic standpoint and because their maintainability was poor. You could only repair these engines at the factory. So the party decided that the people didn't need them. But for the special services, they were just right. Another complex engine, yet a simple one. Paradoxes do happen. There are no intake or exhaust valves here. There isn't a single belt here, and there are no pistons. The core of the engine is the eccentric shaft. It serves the function of a crankshaft. It also transmits torque from the rotors, which act as pistons. Time to bring it to life. By the way, this is the BR's unit, the backup ignition unit. Well, what if something happens during the mission, and this little button here switches to the reserve tank? Everything should be unclear and inconspicuous so that a bystander on the street can't figure out that the ignition is being tampered with here. The car accelerates rapidly, 9 seconds to 100. For that time, and even for ours, that's a very good figure. And the sound of the engine running is a bit unusual. In first gear, you can stretch it forever, 60 kilometers per hour, and there's no roar. In second, you can go up to 80, but there's no need. Third is the most commonly used gear, and the engine's tone hardly changes at all. You can easily rev it up to 8,000, but watch what I'm about to do. I shift down, release the clutch, and nothing happens. The car hardly slows down at all, which means you can't use the gearbox to brake here. And the engine sounds different too. You can only hear the resonator. And the way it starts moving is completely different from what you might expect. There's none of that jerky, carbureted Zhiguli-style shuddering when you take off. Everything is just absolutely perfect and you're simply flying along. If only all Zhigulis could drive like this. In many respects, the rotary engine outperformed regular engines. Its efficiency was significantly higher. Weight was also not in favor of the classic engine. For example, this Vaz 41.32 weighs 113 kilograms with gearbox and everything. A regular 1.5-liter engine weighs almost 140. The KGB's Zhiguli 5 top speed is 180 kilometers per hour. This is just insane. The acceleration is wild. But next time, I won't go this fast. You know why? Fuel consumption. Officially, it's 9.5 liters, but more often because the engines were worn out. Here, the oil burns off just like in a BMW. The complexity of maintenance played a cruel joke on the rotary engine. Domestic lubricants and fuels were far from the best. The engines had to be repaired only at the factory and by specialists. The claimed lifespan of 125,000 kilometers was never reached. Oil was constantly leaking and burning off. Another quirk from the rotary engine. Currently in third gear, the speed is approximately 20 kilometers per hour. We're rolling, pressing the accelerator, and the car takes off easily and effortlessly without any difficulty. How many such cars were produced is unknown. At this time, it's a state secret. It is known, though only indirectly, that this Vaz 21059 is one of the last approximately 100 cars of its model. Later, the similar 7s replaced the 5s for law enforcement agencies. Vaz 21079. Fast, lively, unpredictable at speed. Look into this topic. I've only just scratched the surface of this fascinating and complex subject for you, so you can dig even deeper and genuinely understand why, even today, these engines really have no future. The hunt continues. For your information, please note that the content is continued